So, good evening or good day, depending on when it is for you, when you might happen to see or hear this. For me, it is evening time, 22nd of December, 2019, just after 7 p.m. What I wanted to talk about was a few things: solstice, Christmas, and Revelation. I think that's what I'll title this. So, it's a few different points is what I have to go on, though I don't have a script. I have a few things I wanted to use to try and illustrate what I'm getting at. But overall, it shouldn't matter when it is, when you hear this, because it should be, I hope, a message that will maybe have some meaning, because my attempt here is to try and convey what I've been looking at. And for me, I recognize nature as physical and metaphysical, intertwined, tied together in our everyday life every day. What I want to do is try and convey a message about the solstice, Christmas, something from Revelation, one Bible verse. No, it's not about the Bible, so don't go running, please, but it's about. Let me just get going. I recorded a short video earlier of a view from my perspective here, watching the sky and what's going on. And I want to talk about what's going on tonight, because what I'm going to show is from just after 3 p.m. today. But I talk about how I see the sun move throughout the seasons. So I'll let that little clip, I'll insert that maybe in just a moment as this video would be playing. Well, let me tell you, over the last 3 years, I would not have been able to observe and see the patterns and cycles I have been able to observe if we did indeed live on a ball that was spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and at the same time rotating 67,000 miles an hour around the sun as it spins, while being dragged 600,000 miles an hour in another direction, I would not be able to see the sun's path across the sky change slowly, hour by hour by hour by hour. And I'll try and illustrate why in just that little clip. So, if instead of this, because this is what I thought for 39 years, even flying all around, serving in the military, the dark path I ended up walking, which I talked about at length, I never realized until after observing that, or if I just to consider the center point of where the sun and moon circle and draw a line around that center point, as others have illustrated at length. I'm just trying to say this very quickly. The ring around that center point be the Tropic of Cancer. Another ring outside that would be the equator. The outer ring, the Tropic of Capricorn. Right now, what I'm seeing, what we're all seeing here in the northern or more central part of the lands, as looking south into the sky, we see the sun at its furthest point out on the circle on the Tropic of Capricorn. That's why I'll let the video speak for that. But so I'll insert that here. How about that? This was taken from northern Michigan, 22 December 2019, just after 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just so you know where the observer is. So I'm looking south, where the camera is looking south. This time of year, what I've noticed, so the time of the winter equinox for the north, so anyway, this time of year I see the sun come into view in the east, where I pointed, using the trees in the environment as a reference. Since I've been looking from the same point for the last 3 years and paying attention, I've actually noticed this happening. That's what I'm saying, to illustrate. So it moves across its path on the ecliptic, the sun. on its furthest point out over the Tropic of Capricorn right now. So we are in the winter, so that's why to the north, or the inner lands more toward the center, so to speak, had its shortest day, longest night. We're right now, were we to be far, far out to the south, the direction I was pointing, it would be the height of summer for us. So it would be the summer solstice, longest day, shortest period of night. So over time, its path on the ecliptic, I notice, moves from this low point where it is now, this time of year for me, where I'm looking low in the southern sky. It will start to move inward, so to speak, or north on the ecliptic. And when I look over to my left, which is east in this point of view, I noticed it during on its trip back toward the spring or the equinox. So you have the spring equinox, the vernal equinox. That is when the sun is in the center over the equator, where it's equal day and night. So during this time, continuously after December, it will slowly, little bit by little bit each day, as it circles above, visibly come in more and more north, go out of view, further to the northwest, come into view further to the northeast, bit by bit. Then by summer, when it's over the Tropic of Cancer, that's when it will be at its height for the north. We will be at our height of summer. We have our longest days as the circle is a bit smaller that it's taking above us. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate here. And I noticed it only because for the last few years, I gained the ability and the want and need to try to pay attention to what's going on with nature and in me and everything, and just observe. So I just wanted to share this. So, and then the way I try to illustrate that it is moving above on these paths is just by simply turning in a circle, because the sun continues on its path, as does the moon above us, rotating above us continuously, moment by moment, each and every day and night. And these are the cycles as it moves inward and outward on its path of the ecliptic. On the ecliptic now, for the north, we are in the time of winter or death or no life or conservation of energy time, reflection time, maybe, while at the south they're at the peak of their summer, like I said. So just try to keep that in mind. Maybe that will help with what I'm trying to explain. Okay, so if you can visualize what I was trying to say there about the daytime, that's how I have been able to gain an understanding, an observable, knowable understanding of how the equinoxes and the solstices actually work. And it makes sense, and it's observable, and it's watchable. And the seasons change accordingly. So, solstice, in the word, I had looked that up at one point. Solstice comes from solstitium, which means, that's from Latin, the point at which the sun seems to stand still. So right now, as we look to the south, or as I look to the south, or as I try to show, the sun appears to be still. It's continuously moving above, as it always does. But it will pass that same place on the ecliptic for a few days, and then noticeably maybe on the 25th, because far out to the south where one would be able to see the southern stars, you would see the sun on the cross. Though here and more central, see the sun travel around and it's winter here, right? The dark time, the time where all the vegetation and everything has died down. The vegetation from that grows from the life-giving sun to provide us with nutrients and life so we can sustain ourselves. Getting a little lost there. But anyway, the stars here, as I looked out just a little bit ago, over to the southwest in the southwestern sky, Venus, very, very, very bright out there. Where the sun went out of view earlier. So the sun off out of view in the west. And then Venus appearing very brightly. Well, one could go see right now if they were to go look right now. In the eastern sky, now this is standing looking south, Orion and its belt are on its way into view. So let me bring that to try and bring a deeper meaning to Christmas, since it's these days, please. Because from what I see, it's not, of course, about just the materialistic side of things, not at all. There's a metaphysical part of this story, of this reality, of your story, and these cycles are being presented to us over and over in the sky, telling us this story that very much relates to us, each and every one of us, each and every man and woman, because that's simply what we are. We are men and women, and I'm not trying to pretend to know things, and I'm not the Most High. I'm just saying I'm a simple, humble man that have been looking at things, and I'm trying to convey this message in a more all-encompassing way. And I feel like there's importance to it. So those stars, that could signify that star. If you were to go to the biblical story of Jesus or the birth of the sun, if one were to see the sun move out of view, out at its furthest point, and look like it's going to stay out there for a few days, it might be a little scary if you live in the inner lands and you just start to pay attention. You wonder, is the sun going to come back? Am I going to be able to grow food? Am I going to be able to live? Will the sun return? Will the sun return? I'll say yes, and that's maybe a deeper point to this message in whatever physical or metaphysical way one might want to look at it. But you see that star, and then those three stars, those three bright stars, or maybe the three wise men, Orion's belt will soon be following across that same path on the ecliptic, as if it's moving toward the sun. So I'm just saying maybe there's more to it. This isn't to detract from the message that's been conveyed through the story of a life that was lived as Jesus or Yeshua. Because that story being conveyed about very real physical life in this place that we're all in, and about standing up to say, listen, other man and other woman, none of you have an authority over other man or over other woman. You only have authority over yourself. And having and knowing that authority over yourself, that self-governance, that governing authority that was imbued to you by the Most High, that was taken away from most of us at birth when we were injected with poisons and toxins, so we could never contemplate or conceive or reflect on things such as this, to know things such as this, to know that we're standing in a theater. Everything that's happening out there in every single piece of the system is a piece of theater, and the theater only works with the audience participation that's going on. That's the only way the actors can stand up in front. Not just the actors, I mean, they're all actors. As I was an actor, back before I knew myself just to be a man, back when I thought I was this name, This label, this corporate fiction that was put on my birth certificate, I thought I was that. I was those combination of words, that thing, that name, that dead entity, fictional entity, with other labels I would attach to myself over the years, as it seemed everyone around me was deceived into doing the same, to keep us all in the same, under the same control of other. And how or why? For all kinds of reasons, but for control. Why tell folk they live on something like this that's spinning, so whatever, and then show them all these images that will stay in their imagination, and their imagination kept asleep due to the toxins they're taught to consume. Their imagination they can't get hold of. All they can get is these repetitive images of what they've been shown, of what they think they know, only because they believe the authority figures that taught them those things or showed them those things. I was the same way. I believed all the nonsense for 39 years. I didn't know it was nonsense. I had no reason to think otherwise, though I should have. Though it turns out I didn't have the ability to. I had too many addictions, too many. I spoke about that at length before. But anyway, think about that maybe on the 25th. It's not about these gifts in the boxes. It is about the return of the Son of the Creator, because there is a Creator. And maybe that's the deeper message I really want to get across. A more universal, or a message in one verse, a universe. My message is, I would say, in my heart, I know. In my heart, I know and feel that no matter how one labels it, for them, in them, out loud or inside them, however they label the Most High or don't label, whether it is Yahuwah, Allah, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey, we all live under the same Most High. The same Most High that granted me the ability to speak these words, granted you the ability to speak the words you speak and attach to the labels you attach to. For me, it became the deeper message of importance I found in that life described of Yeshua, and standing up to the system and standing up to all of it, just because it was what was right morally. Moral right has nothing to do with legality. Legality is a construct of man, because man cannot make laws. Only the Creator has made the laws. Man and woman can only hope to discover those laws, those natural laws of nature, to know that we're here to protect and care for life, to be stewards of life, first off of our own, to be able to anyway. Why aren't we? Because we were taught, as our parents were taught, as our grandparents were taught, as it went back to the creation of this belief, of this piece of sigil magic, full of sigils and symbols and meaning that I never thought to think twice about when I was using it. Yet now it's become very clear. You can look at nature itself and anything that lives in nature and realize that man and woman are the only part of nature that live in such an unnatural way as to trade inanimate objects and graven images that we worship just to be able to have food, drink, shelter, things that have been provided. There are multiple times more homeless folk than there are empty homes. That's a shame. Everything's all been created from our own energy, all of us that are here. Everything has been paid for, so to speak. Yet we continue to pay because others tell us to. And that's immoral and that's usury. And all can come to know that and can come to know much more and feel the much more about everything. I need a small drink of water. It's a little rough getting dry with these ginger things. Which it is getting better. Brandon, in case you're listening, big sip. Thank you for your kind words. It is getting better. Let me get to Revelation. Also, let me back 1 second. And Richie from Boston, thank you so much for posting again that documentary that my son made about the vaccines. Him and I both, and my other son, who I still hope can recover from the damage we've all gone through. And we know that damage very well, very deeply, because we were injected with a lot of stuff. I was especially. Thank you for that. Thank you. Revelation. Why I put that, why I mentioned that. So the other evening, it was listed, if one were to look it up, that the solstice, the summer solstice, was to take place on the 21st at 11:19 p.m. Now, maybe somewhere in the psyche, because the 9/11, the backwards 9/11, the inverted 9/11, the upside down, add this, you can use it with the 6, the ones, it doesn't matter. It's all been deeply ingrained, socially engineered into our psyche to have a negative connotation, to have a negative meaning. And when it is shown, when it's printed, when it's put out there like that by them in the media in different ways, they're using it for that way to try and trigger that negative feeling inside in the psyche that's been ingrained to get folk pushed or kept into that fear-based reactionary state. Please keep in mind the 11 and the 9, much deeper meaning can be found in that can relate to you. I've tried to talk about it before in the meaning I found, but it doesn't necessarily have to be evil. Though when you see it presented to you in such a way as in the winter solstice would be at 11:19, that can't be said because the winter solstice happens depending on where we live in this place, on this place, moment by moment, because as the sun and moon continue to travel continuously, we all live in different places at the same time, and it doesn't happen for all of us at the exact same time, at the exact same moment, where you can just put a timestamp on it like that. So that might be significant and likely is for a lot of reasons. If anyone is paying attention to any of the deeper things that are going on that are in very blatant, obviously destructive things, because I'm watching all these systems, all these established systems, all being shown for what they are. The so-called actors in the different forms of theater, whether it's the scientism theater of academia, whether it's politics in the theater of government, whether it's the theater of this social group or that social group, or it doesn't matter. Whichever label's been attached to, it's being shown openly and blatantly that it's all been set up to divide and to conquer and to destroy itself. And it is being brought down on purpose so power can be consolidated into one spot under one ruling body of man. So saying what I've said and talking about the solstice and talking about Christmas, and I can get more. I can get deeper into that, but what I found was trying to live that way, that archetypal way of the son of the creator as described in those stories and standing up. As in that story, he was put to death at 33 for me to realize to tie together with the 33 vertebrae of my own spine and to grow enough of a spine to realize enough things are wrong and I need to speak about these things. I can find deeper meanings in that. Though I don't tout a label or a group or say this, that, or the other to try and garner support, because I'm trying to simply convey the deep, deep message I found, and that was simply morality in my own heart. And I only found that through finding that deep, dark state of repentance for all the things I came to realize that I did and that I was a part of when I just plain didn't know better. There's no excuse, and I don't blame any outside source for it. So, but let me say, because it was said at 11:19 for the solstice, I decided to pick up the Bible my wife bought me a while back. When, like I said, in the last few years, when I've looked as deep as I could into everything, everywhere I could, different religions, different books, different myths, nature, watching nature, observing nature, trying to tie together meaning in it all as best I could. I decided to look that up. What about Revelation 19? I wonder what that said, since they put the solstice time in. Revelation 19, which is the only verse, though, but it relates. Synchronistic, so to speak, like it all seems to be. Revelation chapter 11, verse 19. And the temple of God was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. What struck me about that when I saw it and when I read it was talking about the solstices and the equinox and relating it to Christmas. What I'm trying to convey is exactly that. The arc of the heavens, the arc that I can observe these celestial bodies moving on, that were all put here by the Creator. And that's the point I came to a while back when I made a video called Aligning the Stars, was the point I got to, what I found morally inside was not to become affixed or attached to or worshipful of any aspect or angle of nature or creation that the Creator put here. That was the trap. In whichever angle you went off in, whatever 360-degree circle or this whole torus field of all these interrelated angles that move around in the energy field we all exist in. Anyway. So that for me became the trap of mind, where mind can be controlled in this angle or that, attached to this label or that, and lose that moral core, that center of the heart. Which brings me to another point. For Christmas, Christ Mass, for me, the deeper point metaphysically was the realization that if I could actually live in such a way as to where I caused no harm, after all the harm I had caused was part of the whole repentance thing, which does not stop for me. It's a moment-to-moment, everyday thing, the way I live. I just found it way too late. But for me, I felt that living like that and actually walking and living that narrow path of morality and causing no harm and trying to protect and care for life, even if all I can do is speak words about it to a screen. To me, that was the point. whether I can make up for anything I did or not. I figure others can stop before they get to a point to where maybe you can't make up for it. I don't know. And for me, the chance for that is enough to try. So I don't mind sounding crazy or being called this, that, or the other, if that's what happens to. If something like that was to happen, please recognize that I used to be the same way. And I recognized that when that happened in me, it was because it was a problem in me because I could not take my thoughts captive, so to speak, my thoughts or emotions of what I pictured reality to be. And if I heard something conflicting, I could not take those thoughts and emotions captive, and I would shut down or attack or ridicule with words or ignore. So another thing I have recognized in observing the sun and getting that energy of the sun, of the creator, in the eyes through the windows of my soul, and then coming to learn more about my own physiology and inner workings with study, research, reflection, and just living day by day. Getting the toxins out, I recognize that getting that light in through the eyes did indeed. My pineal gland, pituitary gland started to function properly. There are photoreceptors in there in the pineal gland. That as that uncalcified, got decalcified, yeah, so-called my third eye open. That was simply me being able to logically and creatively line up reality and be able to control both hemispheres of the mind, which improved over time. At first, it was still, I was very much scattered, but over time, it got better as I got healthier. And as I observed the sun and got more light through the windows to my soul, so to speak, at some point it got deeper. And as I reflected on myself and my past, I realized that those pictures being portrayed of Jesus or Yeshua pointing to the heart, and sometimes being portrayed with an eye right here, and that was portrayed in other drawings as well, occult anatomy of the body, which only means hidden. In me, a fourth eye, so to speak, opened, which is appropriate because it's around that place of the heart, those four chambers of the heart. Four also in the occult world is associated with death. With death because that four does not appear in the Fibonacci sequence, the spiral of life, so to speak. Very appropriate for me because when that eye opened in my heart, when I really truly found empathy and could empathetically recognize what had happened and what I was, and that I was just a man. And none of these other labels that allowed me to do what I did. That's when that fourth eye opened. That's when I gained full control over my mind, because it's like that third eye was looking down as I reflected, and I found some other eye looking up. And to me, that was the creator. Me recognizing, though I thought I'd recognized this earlier as my brain actually literally started to heal over time. I realized that whole time the creator had been looking and feeling and knowing through us the whole time, no matter what, and there was no hiding anything. Even each thought and imagined picture needed, it's important for deep reasons to get healthy. For me, I try to explain how I did it. Plant-based diet, cannabis-infused coconut oil. The antifungal component of the coconut oil is important for the lymphatic system. There's a kitten making all kinds of noise in here. So anyway, also the endocannabinoid system, as I've spoken about before, that's what the cannabis oil is for, to strengthen that system, which will work with the immune system, which will help clear the body. If you can get clean, plant-based, minerals, and sustenance, because you can get all you need from the plants, cause no more harm. So maybe that's something. If everyone can recognize that and realize that as the sun is returning, because we are in the winter here where I am and others around me, and where we're under all these systems, of course, it's across the plane, whatever that might look like ultimately, I can't say. Before March gets here, when spring gets here, when life springs to life because of the return of the sun, maybe start preparing and everyone just be ready to just start planting fruit and vegetables. Just plant them all over. Maybe folk could realize we can all spread out. Maybe realize there's more empty homes and homeless. Let folk use the things that are here that have already been created by all that live here. And whether they help to create it or not, they all live here and they've all been suppressed the same way as the rest of us. And that can all be solved with no more participation with the different theaters. And those within the different theaters realized that they were taught to play a role. They were taught and trained to act out and play a role that they chose, thinking all along they had free will. All along just being presented with the delusion of freedom through voting for a master anyway. Any way you look at it, you're handing over your authority. Your authority that was given to you like it was to every other man and woman by the Most High, to govern yourself, to learn how to govern yourself, and then to live. To simply live in harmony with nature. If everyone did what they like to do because they like to do it, we would still continue to have everything we need and easily life would improve. With as little effort as going out and starting to plant food and not participating, can all turn around. And why I say all this is because the cycles I see in nature. And I don't know how long these cycles will go on because we only get as many as we get, I guess. That's up to, that's beyond me. It's above my level. All I'm trying to say is we're all equal down here on this level playing field. I'm trying to just get across it. Stop playing the game that's been created. I think that's about all I wanted to say. So hopefully this will turn out all right. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Feel free to share however, wherever you'd like. And I was just thinking about it. Thanks for listening.